If you find yourself driving around southern Arizona, and why wouldn't you, take a detour to check out the Painted Rock Petroglyph Site, a curious pile of boulders in the middle of the desert near Gila Bend and Dateland. You'll see some mysterious sun-baked etchings from hundreds of years ago and get a quick and fascinating history lesson. If you've never heard of it, don't feel bad. I'd never heard of the Painted Rock Petroglyph Site either, but just saw a sign on the road and took the last-minute exit. In this video, I'll show you what I found at Painted Rock, go over some information about the site, and give you some idea about what you'll find if you make it to this amazing hidden corner of Arizona, for camping or just for a brief visit. Painted Rock Petroglyph Site is in southwest Arizona in the Sonoran Desert. Actually, let's back up a second. What exactly is a petroglyph? The word comes from two Greek words, petra, which is rock, and glypho, which is carving. A petroglyph is different than a petrograph, which is a drawing onto rock, like cave art, or a geoglyph, which is arranging rocks or gravel into an image like the Nazca lines in Peru. Petroglyphs are found all over the world, and the United States is certainly no slouch. It's the etchings that grab your eye. Many are plainly recognizable, people and lizards and snakes. Others are kind of psychedelic desert patterns, swirls and zigzags, or just free-form explosions of carved creativity. What really strikes you is just how many petroglyphs there are. Almost every rock is covered in them. You may have seen the occasional petroglyph in some museum somewhere or behind a glass case maybe, but at Painted Rock they are all right there in the open, out in the desert sun, just like you. An estimated 800 images all over the jumbled boulders everywhere. And on whatever rock surfaces did remain untouched by the original artisans, more modern visitors have been inspired to make their own carvings. Here, someone with the initials DEW left their mark on what looks to me like January 7th, 1908. I wonder who it was. Dawn Alberta Wells from Gilligan's Island? Donald Edmund Wahlberg from New Kids on the Block? Diane Evelyn Wiest from Footloose? Yeah, it was probably one of them. Note that visitors now are not allowed to touch the rocks and certainly not to carve them. The desert conditions deteriorate the rocks enough as it is without us screwing them up more. The origins of the carvings at Painted Rock are not known for certain, but it seems that the earliest were made around 1400 years ago by local people who lived along the Gila River. There are several petroglyph sites around this part of Arizona, but Painted Rock is the largest. It's not exactly known who did the etchings. It was probably either the Patayan people or the Hohokam people. Both lived in this area, and the location of the Painted Rock site is roughly between them. Some of the symbols resemble those found on Hohokam pottery, but this is not a consensus view. Understanding why the petroglyphs were carved in the first place basically means figuring out two things. First, what the symbols are, and then what they mean. The first is easier, the second is maybe unknowable. Signs say to look for geometric patterns like grids and mazes and groups of circles, but also for recognizable objects from nature like the sun and moon, humans, animals, and, my favorite, humans with animal features. As you walk among the boulders, it's fun to see how many of these images you can find for yourself. But what is their significance? Well, it's part of the mystery of the ancient desert, and there are different theories. I think it's a testament to the otherworldly, almost Martian feel of the landscape here, that we now tend to interpret the Painted Rock petroglyphs in expansive, cosmic terms. As this sign speculates, the carvings may be reflections of visions and dreams. They may be an attempt to seek help from spirits, or may be warnings to travelers about the dangers that lie ahead, or they may record important stories of the past. In 1977, Painted Rock was added to the National Register of Historic Places. The official paperwork describes the dark desert varnish of the rocks and summarizes the debate over the significance of the site. One early visitor in 1846 believed the signs were intended to commemorate some great event. A few years later, another visitor dismissed the Painted Rock petroglyphs as being apparently without meaning or historical value. One R.J. Hinton let his imagination run wild in 1877, deciding that the symbols were intended as a record of important events and to express all the facts of human life, fighting and passion alike. Maybe, I don't know. But hey, let's not pick on R.J. Hinton. Lots of people fall under the spell of the Sonoran Desert's remote magic. Anyway, Painted Rock Petroglyph Site, then part of Arizona's Painted Rock State Park, was signed and stamped into being as a National Historic Place on November 25, 1977. In 1989, the state park was dissolved, its nearby reservoir closed off due to highly polluted waters. It's still closed. And the petroglyphs fell under the Bureau of Land Management, which still administers the site today. BLM signs around the petroglyphs, like this one in Spanish, English, and Tohono O'odham, discuss the area and its history. Various groups have come through here, including the Mormon Battalion, the only religious-based military unit in U.S. history, which was a voluntary battalion of Latter-day Saints who fought in the war with Mexico in the 1840s. Also, the Butterfield Trail, one of the first transcontinental highways, connected St. Louis and Memphis with San Francisco. Stagecoaches took passengers and mail across the country in 23 days and passed by Painted Rock. As the sign says, stifling heat and thick trail dusts were guaranteed. Comfort, hot food, and a good night's sleep were not. I found Painted Rock during a 3-month road trip on which I had a no interstates rule. However, due to the remoteness and harshness of this part of the U.S., the interstate is the only option. In fact, bicycles are allowed on interstates out here because there are no other viable roads. My travel partner and I had stayed in Yuma, Arizona, and were driving along Interstate 8, going east. If you're on I-10, you'll need to get on I-8, either between Phoenix and Tucson or from Highway 85 west of Phoenix. Once on Interstate 8, you just look for the brown highway signs for Painted Rock Petroglyph Site. From the exit, it's about 12 miles along a 2-lane paved road. You pull off onto a gravel road, and there you are, far from everywhere, in a vast desert basin, with a long, low range of mountains in the distance. 18th century visitors describe the rocks at this site as having been painted, and that's why it's called Painted Rock. I assume they mean the etched lines were painted, not the entire rocks. In any case, there is no paint left these days, but the name remains. As a site, Painted Rock is simple. There's a small gravel parking lot, a camping area, and a short trail that leads around the pile of rocks. You have to pay $2 for a day visit. Camping costs $8. I'll go over more about camping later. Payment is on the honor system. You put your money in the envelope and drop it in the slot. I had no bills and had to use quarters, which fell out and clanged around the bottom of the metal container. I hope they found them. It'll probably be hot. When I visited in mid-April, it was 94 degrees, and in summer it's usually about 110. But the heat just adds to the experience of Painted Rock. Everything feels dry and stark, America at its limits. If you're here in the winter months, though, it gets down to 40 at night, maybe 70 in the daytime. Signs warn of snakes, and you can easily imagine that there are probably quite a few, and they're probably ruthless if bothered. When I was there, I didn't see any snakes. I did see this guy, though. I think it's a desert iguana. It was about 1 foot long with mesmerizing pink-orange skin, trotting around the ground between the boulders. There were also 2 researchers, climbing over the rocks and making notes on a clipboard and sticking colored flags all over the place. I admired their exertions under the glare of the sun, and their apparent acceptance of the snakes. I wonder what their little colored flags meant. Other than these hardy creatures, you may see other forms of life, like rodents and bees and plants like creosote. I think that's what this is. Also, watch out for the most venomous scorpion in North America. The Arizona bark scorpion, seen here glowing under black light, is just the sort of tough creature you'd expect to find living at Painted Rock. There are some basic camping facilities at Painted Rock Petroglyph Site. A covered area has some tables for picnics, and there are barbecue grills and fire rings and even a vault toilet. You can park your RV or break out a tent and camp for the night for $8, though there is no potable water or dump station. Spending the night at Painted Rock will mean it's just you and the desert. You'll sleep in a vast quietness, under a sky full of stars. Your only neighbors the warm desert winds, the scurrying desert creatures, and the spirits that the ancient people carved into the basalt boulders. Everything in this area is dominated by the Gila River, which rises in New Mexico and flows to Yuma, Arizona, where it empties into the Colorado River. Nearby mountains force a huge dogleg bend at the Gila River here, which gives the town of Gila Bend its name. As the nearest town to Painted Rock, Gila Bend is an obvious place to stop for food, supplies, or a stay in a hotel. I would actually like to take this opportunity to mention some of the smaller spots on the map along Interstate 8. Tartran, Piedra, Theba, Smur. And the reason is because I just wanted to say Smur. So, Smur. As you drive towards town, listening to The Road to Gila Bend by Los Lobos, stop in at the amazing Space Age restaurant. It's a throwback to the 1960s space age, with astronauts and spaceships all over the walls, and Jetsons-like salad bars. The delicious chorizo omelet is a perfect road trip meal. Outside, Gila Bend evinces a dinosaur fascination. This may be the perfect southwestern town. Once you're done with Gila Bend, you can get on I-8 and head to Tucson or Phoenix, or over to Yuma, or head down Highway 85 towards Ajo, Y, and Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument, which is what we did. Whichever direction you go, you won't soon forget the mystic presence you felt in Painted Rock Petroglyph Site. It's true Arizona history, an intriguing peek back through time to an earlier American Southwest. It's a tangible, in-your-face connection to the Native Americans who first found the Gila River and lived along its banks. The original meanings of the petroglyphs may be lost to time, but that just means they'll take on their own meanings personal to you and your visit. And after all, maybe that was the intention of the people who scraped the dark desert varnish off of the basalt to reveal idiosyncratic images in the lighter rock underneath. They gave you a few basics to ignite a spark: sun, moon, people, animals, and then left the rest up to you and your own open desert imagination.